disrespect, slighted, cheated. The Arizona State Sun Devil women's volleyball players were all ticked off after the 2023 NCAA tournament bracket was announced.
I mean, we were fired up. We were fired up and ready to go. I mean, obviously, we, going into the NCAAs, we were predicted to lose that first round against Georgia. And that only fueled us, I think, and that excited us that much more. And there was, we also felt like we deserved to host, so that fueled us up even more.
ASU Libero Mary Shroll and her teammates were a 5th seed, headed to Provo, Utah, to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. The selection committee didn't understand everything this Sun Devil squad had gone through to finish the regular season in the top 25 with a 26-6 record.
I wasn't super fired up that Georgia was our draw.
This is ASU head coach JJ Van Niel.
The NCAA committee is going to say, well, Georgia was a low seed, but they're a P5 team that had the player of the year in their conference, had some really nice wins.
Despite his reservations, Van Niel had installed confidence in his team that could not be denied. And it didn't come from any fiery speeches, according to outside hitter Geli.
He's way more technical, so he was probably honestly just telling us what to block and what to serve and what to hit.
Not bad for a guy who didn't play any college volleyball.
I think the sport I was most into by the end of high school, college was hockey.
I was like, what? Like a hockey player coming to coach volleyball? I was always just interested to see how he got into volleyball.
At no point was I like, I'm going to be a coach.
Welcome to BYU Radio's Big Stories, telling the amazing and inspiring tales from the Big 12 and beyond. I'm your host, Cleon Wall. Our episode, The Evolution of JJ Van Niel. Van Niel grew up a grinder in Rolling Hills, California.
Pretty middle-class life, but not a ton of disposable income from my parents. So I've probably been working in some way, shape, or form since I was maybe 12 or 13. I pretty much can't remember the last time I haven't had a job.
When he wasn't working to pay for baseball cards when he was younger or movie tickets when he was older, JJ was playing sports. Soccer, water polo, volleyball, and hockey too. Thanks to a Los Angeles Kings player who lived in his neighborhood.
Tom Laidlaw just randomly saw us outside, gave us sticks, and he was hurt. So he wasn't going into practice anymore. He ended up kind of helping him scout that whole season. So we would go over to his house and watch hockey with him, and he'd shoot around with us. And so that's how I got into hockey.
Van Niel worked and played so much, he sometimes ignored his academics.
In high school, I didn't think going to class mattered. And it turns out it does. So, it's kind of like the classes that I cared about and went to, I'd get an A, and the rest I'd skip. I especially skip morning classes because I'd want to go surfing with my buddies. So when everyone else was applying to colleges, I was realizing the colleges that I would want to go to, I wasn't going to get in.
Orange Coast College wanted JJ to come to their school. The community college in Costa Mesa recruited him to play volleyball.
I knew college volleyball wasn't in my future, and I was playing a ton of hockey. That was my thing back then.
So JJ decided to start his post-secondary education career at El Camino College.
And that first semester, or the second semester of my community college, I helped the high school volleyball team that I just played for because the coach needed some help.
Then he put volleyball to the side. That's because he finally focused on school.
Crushed school at El Camino, and then applied to USC and the UC programs. I ended up choosing USC because of the being able to do undergraduate business there. I played club hockey the whole time, and it was absolute blast. And we got to go to nationals a couple years.
And he never thought about trying out for the USC men's volleyball team.
I knew that I wouldn't be able to hang with those guys.
JJ's plans after college had nothing to do with sports and everything to do with the world of high finance.
This is going to sound bad, but part of it was I thought that was a way to make a lot of money. Being financially secure was a big driver, and I really loved all my finance classes.
He graduated cum laude from the USC Marshall School of Business and got his first job in investment banking.
When I took the job, it was an investment bank in San Francisco. It was a boutique that was focused on tech and healthcare, M&A, and equity. And they were really known for their research. It was called Cowan & Company. It was a wild experience. We grinded, like you were working 100 hours a week easily.
From there, JJ moved back to Los Angeles to work at a distressed debt hedge fund.
The last finance job I had was at Relational Investors. That was a really cool experience. I got to be in San Diego, which of course was an awesome place to live. And while I was down there, I started playing indoor volleyball again, and fell back in love with volleyball. Not that I ever fell out of it. It's just, You don't really play indoors as an adult, but they had all these adult leagues down there that were kind of fun to play in.
One night, his match was canceled and Coast Volleyball was holding tryouts. Coast is a giant in the club volleyball community.
I went and found the owner and just said, hey, do you ever need anyone helping? And she said, yeah, that would be great.
JJ traveled a lot for his job, so he didn't know how much help he would actually render.
And I still don't know why I did it. Like I just randomly asked.
His first volleyball assignment? Coaching 18-year-olds.
Wasn't the best team. As soon as I started, I realized I don't know nearly what I think I need to know to coach and be a good coach. And I just became obsessed with how to coach volleyball. So like I bought DVDs, I bought every book in volleyball. I'd go to the library and just take out every book I could, and I would just pour through this stuff and try to figure out. And USA Volleyball used to have these this coaching accreditation program, and there were like 3 levels. It takes a year for each level. I signed up and did all 3 of those.
That program was foundational for the up-and-coming Coach Van Niel.
I loved the way they talked about, I think, organizing a program, a team, and training with measurables. And that really just fit with my analytical kind of mind. I remember when I went back and they had all these stats, and I'm like, okay, we should be looking at this stuff for my club team.
JJ generated more hard-driven data on volleyball and became an analytics guru. His part-time gig turned into his passion.
I think my wife just thought I was crazy. Usually when I get into something, I'm like a bulldog and I go all in. And then in the end of 2010, I left the finance and was just going to take some time off, sabbatical kind of thing. And I think at that time, my wife was kind of like, okay. And then I started interviewing for finance jobs like 6 months later and was like, honestly, I just felt sick to my stomach. And I knew that it wasn't because I was nervous about interviewing. Like the interviews were easy. I knew how to do the analytics and all that stuff. But I would just leave and be like, I don't want to do this. And so that's when I kind of said, yeah, I think I want to coach. And be honest, I think my wife is too pleased with that.
And for good reason.
It's really hard to get into college coaching. It takes some time. And you don't get paid very much, or you're working at a mid-major where you, especially back then, you got paid nothing. I was talking to UC Santa Barbara and they were about to hire me, and my wife was pretty stressed because the pay was not good. But we had some money and I'm like, hey, Santa Barbara's beautiful. Like we'll be up there. And then I remember that coach called me when she got back from vacation. She goes, wait a minute, you have a wife and kids? I go, yeah. She goes, yeah, I'm not hiring you. I'm like, what? But everything happens for a reason. And she's just like, hey, this job doesn't pay enough. I don't want it on me that like you're struggling, and so yeah, kind of that didn't work out.
He worked for the UC San Diego men's volleyball team for a few seasons and was almost hired as a first assistant.
I was all excited until he told me the salary, which back then was a stipend, and it was like $17,000. And again, my wife's like, no. And it wouldn't have worked because that season is in the club season.
Coaching for club giant Coast Volleyball and working at a local high school kept him afloat financially. He also got noticed by USA Volleyball for his analytics. Eventually, JJ worked as a technical coordinator for Team USA's under-23 squad.
And then, from then on, every summer I went on 1 to 2 trips with them, including like World Championships was awesome. We won the gold in 2014. That was a really cool experience. And then 2016, I got to go with them to the Olympics.
Around that same time, the University of Utah was searching for a women's assistant volleyball coach. Van Niel was interested in the job, and Utes head coach Beth Lanier wanted to hire him. But he had a decision to make: stay in club volleyball or make the jump to college coaching.
At the time, I was like, well, I'm not getting any younger. If I'm ever going to try college, I need to go give it a shot. So I took the leap. We moved the family. I think I remember going into the office, like my office first time. I'm like, oh wow, I have my own office as a volleyball coach. I actually shared the office, but yeah, I remember being like, oh, this is kind of cool. Getting paid to coach volleyball. I was really fortunate because Beth hired me straight into a first assistant position at Utah, which is kind of unheard of nowadays. Like, I didn't realize how fortunate I was.
2015 was JJ's first season as a college volleyball coach, and it was a rough one.
We really rebuilt that roster and got to a Sweet 16 and went 5 with Texas and just missed going to Elite 8 in 2017. That was a very cool, gratifying experience.
Van Niel even served that season as the associate head coach. The next season, he was called back home by USC and new women's volleyball coach Brent Crouch.
He called me and, kind of out of the blue and just said, hey, are you interested? And I honestly wasn't that interested, but the more he talked about it, I was thinking about my family, so it'd get us back close to like my wife's family, especially in LA. And I thought it could be good for the career.
2 years and 2 NCAA tournament appearances later, Crouch cruised out of LA to take a job at Auburn.
Definitely like a surprise. And, again, during that time, I was always looking at head jobs. I mean, the amount of people that didn't interview me or said no to me it's a pretty long list. But like I said, everything kind of happens for a reason.
On that list, USC. The Trojans decided to hire UCLA associate head coach Brad Keller as the top guy. Coach Van Niel found out that he didn't get the gig from his old Coast Volleyball Club director.
I was really nervous because I got a text that morning and it said, hey man, Brad's got the job. You're getting fired, so let me know if you want to come back home. And, I think Brad had no intention of hiring me at all. And Brad would probably say that now too. I think I could have gone 2 ways on that. I could have been like, all right, screw it. I'm just going to hang on until my contract's up or he gets rid of me and they'll have to pay me out and I'll just do whatever. Or you can say hey, I want to be here and show him that he should hire me. And I did the latter. I just went into this he's not going to hire me. I have nothing to lose though. And the cool thing was we hit it off. I only worked with him for a couple weeks and then COVID hit, which again, that might've been a blessing for me to even keep that job because again, you never know what would have happened. But I think when you're in the trenches with someone and you're going through stuff like that, and it was just us two, we didn't have another coach at the time. We really got pretty close.
JJ served as USC's associate head coach for 3 years and helped the Trojans reach the NCAA tournament in 2022. The following season, he moved again, but with a new job title. JJ finally becomes a college head coach, but he would need to reawaken a sleeping volleyball giant in Tempe. That's all next on BYU Radio's Big Stories podcast. Hey everyone, Cleon Wall here again. I'm inviting you to check out another BYU Radio podcast. It's called Deep Blue. It's where you get the true stories of BYU athletes and coaches from their own mouths. It's hosted by my colleague, Jason Shepard. Last season, they had great interviews on Deep Blue, including Cougar quarterback Gary Bohannon. He teared up quite a bit talking about his son and what it means for his boy to watch his dad play. Also, BYU swimmer Jordan Tiffany, who quit swimming due to mental health struggles. He talked about how he was able to get back in the pool again. More great conversations for season number 3. BYU running back Hinckley Rapati will talk about his tear-filled journey to BYU. Former BYU tight end Chad Lewis, he's going to reflect back on that special 1996 BYU football season. And BYU basketball players Richie Saunders and Fuseni Traore discuss their unique relationship. It started way before they got to BYU. Please subscribe and listen to Deep Blue with Jason Shepard wherever you get podcasts or check it out on the BYU Radio app. Welcome back to our Big Stories episode, the evolution of JJ Van Niel.
Arizona likes volleyball. They like volleyball.
Arizona State women's volleyball libero Mary Shroll knows a thing or two about the big crowds for Sun Devil matches.
I'd always go on my high school teams or my club teams, and when I was really young, like with my older sisters who played volleyball. But they honestly brought in some big crowds, and it was really exciting, like really good volleyball.
But ASU had struggled after Shroll left her high school in Tempe to play volleyball for Loyola Marymount University. From 2019 to 2022, the Sun Devils finished with a winning record only once.
We went through 3 losing seasons in a row, and that was really, really tough to stay positive sometimes.
This is Arizona State outside hitter Geli.
Our culture was just not what I wanted. It was just a lot of non-winning mentalities with my people around me, and I didn't like that. And so I was like, if I can't grow here anymore, I need to go somewhere else. And so entered the transfer portal. I was talking to Wake Forest, which was I was a really academic school, and I was really excited because they had a really good program for my major. And then it ended up that none of my academic credits transferred to basically any other school.
So Geli decided to stay in Tempe.
And so it's kind of that corny thing of everything happens for a reason, that led me back to being here.
Geli then got word that the school had hired JJ Van Niel as their new head coach.
I had one of my really good friends on USC too, and she called me immediately and was like, "You're gonna love him."
This is the same JJ Van Niel who played volleyball in high school, club hockey in college, and worked for 12 years in the financial world, and only learned how to coach volleyball after playing in a recreational league in San Diego.
And, fell back in love with volleyball.
JJ coached at the club level and with Team USA before getting assistant coaching jobs at Utah and his alma mater, USC. JJ applied for other head coaching jobs, but never got the gig. That's when he signaled his willingness to be Arizona State's head coach.
I know I wasn't the first of their list,
but he eventually got the job.
I was just totally fired up. I just look back at that, and I was totally elated that I finally, had that shot.
JJ then went to work. His first order of business, called the current Sun Devil players.
When I was going into those calls, all I was thinking about was, I'd been through 2 different head coaching changes at USC, but it was like, okay, they're going to be stressed because I think whenever a new coach comes in, they didn't recruit you. So who knows if they want to keep you.
He's not very personable over the phone, and I could just tell he was very stressed out. He was like, I'm not going to let you know if you're going to play right now. We don't know if you're going to start. I don't care that you're coming back. And I was like, okay. I honestly, I kind of liked it because it was real, it was the truth. I didn't want him to be like, all right, everything's great and jazzy. You know what I mean? And then after that phone call, we had another phone call, and he was like, we talked for an hour and just really got to know each other. So I think just that first one was a little bit funny.
Half the team had already transferred, so I had a really small roster already. So I think they probably felt pretty good. I don't know, I wouldn't have a roster if I was getting rid of everyone.
There were 7, 8 of us. It was a tiny, tiny roster.
Maddie McLaughlin was one of the Sun Devil holdovers.
It was also a little disorienting because the transfer portal window was closing, and so by the time they finally announced JJ as the new head coach, it was super late in terms of getting new players in. So it was a really tumultuous time for our team.
I remember when they all got on campus and we had our first meeting, I had a presentation.
When he first got up to speak to the whole team, you could tell he was super nervous and a little, awkward, with the whole team there just staring at him. And so that wasn't the most amazing first impression I'd ever had.
So the first presentation had quite a bit of analytics of okay, here's where you guys were and here's where I think we need to be. And this is what we're going to focus on all spring. And if we do this, I think we can make the tournament. But then I realized they're not going to care about that. And what I realized or thought a lot about was the most important thing I can do is get to know these kids. They don't know me, and they're all going to be on edge because I'm the new coach, and they might be thinking all he wants to do is go in the portal and find people to replace me and move me on. They have to get to know me, and I have to get to know them. My mom sent me these old pictures, and I threw those up, talked about the things I was into, talked about my family, and then I just said, hey, we'll get into the volleyball side later, but the most important thing we're going to build is culture. So I told him right away, this is how this is going to work. We're going to build our relationships. Pretty much every day after a practice, I would grab one of the players and go get coffee or go get lunch. And just the rule was, we're not talking about volleyball.
I love how intentional he is about developing relationships with his players off the court. And so I really respected that he genuinely cared about us as people and not just as athletes.
Coach Van Niel continued the coffee talk tradition with the players who joined the team from the transfer portal, like Mary Shroll.
I've had coaches in the past like come into the office or like let's chat, and sometimes that can turn into volleyball talk. But it's really just like a chill time to talk to him and get to know him more. And we have our favorite little coffee spot we always go to. I'm in a master's program here, and I was kind of in a lull, and he, pulled me aside and in his office and was asking what's up. And he literally was like, Mary, I have a mattress in here. Like, if in between classes, you can come sleep. Like, he literally was doing all he could, and he was, checking in after that, making sure I was okay. And
kids were like, hey, when do I get my next coffee?
He builds an incredible lasting impression with you. That's kind of the best way I can say it. It's the day-to-day stuff and the little things that he does. It adds up and accumulates over time. And so I think the first impression was kind of funny looking back on it now.
The girls who have been through this like hardship for so long, and then just adding a bunch of new people, it can sometimes be a little bit weird.
So Coach Van Niel scheduled a team retreat to Sedona, Arizona.
Completely disconnected. So phones were all turned in for the weekend or a couple days we were out there.
And that was an absolute blessing because, those little moments that people are usually turning to their devices, instead we were connecting with each other and we were playing games and, we were talking and interacting constantly.
I brought him in. I said, okay, right now you got 2 hours to make us a meal.
That was really fun.
That was really fun. We had to grocery shop for ourselves. And
they made it like a competition. It was like a team thing. We just had to get it out by 6, or else JJ was promising all these crazy hard things we had to do the next day.
It's like, I think we did Italian. And so we threw it together and it was pretty good as far as I remember.
They kept it basic. They did some pasta and bread. And it was good. The funny thing was they overserved us. So they made enough, and then like they brought out these like plates of pasta for us, which is like massive. And I'm like, this is like for 4 people. And then they realized they didn't have enough for themselves. And so they kind of came back out and they're like, yeah, there's actually not enough for all of us. We're like, yeah, because you served 4 people on my plate. And the business side was, hey, you guys are going to set these goals. And we all know that like there's certain things you need to do to achieve the goals. So what do we think are things we need to do? What are standards? What do we want people to think of our team? And this was all driven by the players.
To achieve those goals, JJ shared with the Sun Devils his analytical vision.
He's developed his own software and used a bunch of other softwares where it can like basically track the exact spots that everything is.
He found out that the only statistic in volleyball that relates to winning the most is how many times you get aced. And so we just practice like over and over in our gym, just don't get aced, just don't get aced, just don't get aced.
Not only had JJ evolved as he took over as head coach, but so had his players. And it showed at the start of the 2023 season.
I remember we swept the first team, and it was just this, whoa, we could be pretty decent this year. There was a really cool realization at some point.
You can kind of tell by who your coaches book for preseason how good they think you're going to be that year. And so it was we kind of coasted through it. It was a lot of 3-0 games.
The Sun Devils won every non-conference match. Their first Pac-12 game was against their rivals from down south, the University of Arizona.
And I was like, that's going to be a big one. We sold out Mullet Arena. And that's when I think I was really like, okay, wow, like this is going to be something really special.
We opened up conference with 2 nice wins over Arizona and Washington, and that was awesome. So I did think we would be successful in the preseason. I would definitely be lying if I had predicted that we'd get 3rd in the conference.
ASU recorded victories over number 3 Stanford and number 5 Oregon along the way. They also triumphed over Coach Van Niel's alma mater and former employer, USC.
It was a wild match. Lots of emotions. Of course, I wanted to win. Both teams I thought were really up and down in that match.
It was 5 sets. So, I mean, from him, I remember in the game, he was pretty intense.
I remember
know
that
he wanted
smile
to beat
when we
him.
won.
Yeah.
He looked like he just got it. Like,
Well, he was intense that game.
that's true.
In sets 2 and 4, parents of the kids I just coached were like cracking me up. A couple of them are really funny.
What were they saying?
Oh, they're just jawing in my ear, making fun of my shirt and constantly call my name. I know you hear me, JJ. And after I went and said hi to them and everything, it was great. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely an emotional game. And I thought, my team, once again, they battled, and that 5th set, they were on fire. I mean, they came out and played really well in that 5th set.
Which brings us back to the Sun Devils feeling disrespected heading into the NCAA tournament.
Oh, yeah, we felt like we were completely slighted.
This team felt like Deseret Financial Arena should have been a host site for the first round. Instead, they traveled to Provo, Utah to take on Georgia.
They had all the bracket predictions that they released, and I think it was like Michaela Chester, the NCAA correspondent, or I don't know, she had her own predictions, and we were not favored in that. And so I think we were very frustrated by that, and there was definitely a chip on our shoulder.
The Sun Devils swept the Bulldogs in straight sets. They would next face host team BYU inside of the noisy Smith Fieldhouse.
I mean, we were just so fired up. Like, we were excited.
Like, that field house just lights up, and people are packed in, and they're super raucous. They're really excited. So I think we were all just, I don't even know how to put it into words, really. It was electric.
I think it was more of like, bring on the fans, like pack this place. Like, how loud can we make this? Because we had that much confidence and that much confidence to be like, okay, you predicted us to lose the first round. Now we're going to go sweep again.
And that's exactly what the Sun Devils did. After the victory, Coach Van Niel had the shivers. He said that he was so proud of his team. I asked if he still gets the shivers, thinking back on that match.
I mean, I just got shivers. So there you go. I've been really fortunate in my life. Like, I've had some teams that I absolutely adore. Like club, I had some amazing groups of kids. But just what we went through together, I've just never felt more proud of a team or tighter with a team. From when I walked in the door, the buy-in, and again, I've been through a couple coaching changes. And I've seen various reactions to new coaches. And this was like, I walked in the door and like the 9 kids were just all in. Like there wasn't pushback.
Arizona State eventually fell 3-1 to Stanford in the Sweet 16.
A couple people said some words, and it was just waterworks from there. Yeah, it was very, very emotional. And then the coaches joined us a little bit later, and it was super emotional with them as well. That was a hard moment, but I think because of how historic the season was, it made it a little bit easier to swallow. It felt like you said, we had lived up to our potential finally. After years and years of working at it, we had realized it.
And the players, like Maddie McLaughlin, couldn't have reached that potential without their first-year head coach.
I think there are people in your life that it's really hard to articulate the impact that they have on you, and he's one of those people for me. He's, at a bare minimum, he's the reason why I'm a middle blocker, and I actually got to play my final year after being here for 4 years, and why I'm playing pro now. Like, he has literally altered the course of my life, and it's his high standards and his constant striving for excellence that makes us all raise our own individual standards.
I think that's only helped my game in holding me to those high standards.
This again is Mary Shroll.
It's only made my game better, and then, as a person, he really tries to develop you as a person, not just a volleyball player.
He's like such a good person to have in your corner.
Finally, Geli Sear.
Like, he knows exactly what I need, and I know that because I have him and the staff in my corner, I will not fail. Like, they will not let me fail. Volleyball wise, like Mary said, he holds us all to a very high standard, and that will now be the standard for the rest of my career.
The evolution of financial guru turned volleyball coach JJ Van Niel is not complete, but his first year in Tempe will be something he will never forget.
That spring I took we have a picture from the spring, and it was our whole team, our staff, and then all the boys. Like we went and recruited from the boys club team because we didn't have enough players to like even play sixes. And we had I have this cool picture, and that'll always be on my desk.
The Evolution of JJ Van Niel was produced and written by Whitney Sheffield and Cleon Wall. Music and post-production by Finn Morrison. Make sure you watch BYUtv's Big Stories by logging on to BYUSN.com. Big Stories is a production of BYU Radio.